Let's queer up entertainment. Legendary HIV positive activist to be Drag Race Germany host. The Drag Race universe is expanding. Over the past 15 years, RuPaul's Drag Race has touched almost every part of the globe. The massively successful series is streamed worldwide and increasingly has been launching franchises in a variety of countries. One of the latest iterations sees an activist living with HIV take up some of the hosting duties for the series. Barbie Breakout, most known globally for a gruesome video protest she staged against Russia in 2013, is one of 2 announced hosts for the new show. She previously also appeared on shows like The Diva in Me and Shopping Queen. On Drag Race Germany, she will be joined by Gianni Jovanovic. The show will air beginning in September. The 45-year-old who has been living with HIV for 18 years will be the latest in a long history of queens involved with the franchise living with HIV. In RuPaul's Drag Race Season 1, Ongina came out in an emotional moment after winning a MAC Viva Glam challenge. She has been followed by others like Trinity K Bonet, as well as Charity Kase in RuPaul's Drag Race UK, and Enorma Jan on Drag Race Italia. But Barbie marks the first as a host. I love this story. This is great. I mean, I'm kind of a pessimist because I don't want to label people as having HIV, like you're the HIV activist because you have HIV. But it's also beautiful to tell people that we can survive, we can live, we're not dying like we were. It's not a sin to live with HIV. Like, we can do great things, and being a host in a conglomerate in something so big like Drag Race is a huge feat. And I'm glad that we get to tell this story. And I hope that, you know, other ally organizations who news organizations can, you know, tell the world that these stories happen and we are thriving.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, literally just this past Saturday, we had the Break the Stigma conference by Aqua Foundation, where we basically talked about the stigma of having HIV, specifically among the woman community. And it's ridiculous, you know, but something that one of the speakers, Sean Tisley, said that really resonated to me is that she's HIV positive, but everybody's HIV positive too. Everybody should be HIV positive because we should have a positive mindset and outlook towards this. Like, that's the way we break the stigma, by showing that people who are living with HIV can have beautiful lives, can live long, can be hosts in shows. You know, they're out here living, thriving, doing their best thing.
Why do you think there's still stigma? Even within our own community, why is there still stigma?
I think, you know, because
old people are still alive.
Yeah, that, and also, like, the government didn't want to do anything when HIV was a thing, you know? Like, well, it is still a thing, but I mean, like, when it was a pandemic, the government basically made it a gay disease, and they consider gay men disgusting. That's the reality of it. And that's why we still have the stigma to this day.
40 years on.
40 years on.
The other thing is, you know, this country has never had any sort of healthy mindset around sex and sexuality. It comes from that Puritan background that has been going back since the founding of this country. You know, and, you know, I still, despite the fact that my late husband, you know, God rest his soul, he was 24 years positive at the time of his death. You know, I still struggle with it, you know, not to the extent that I did beforehand, because when you're married to somebody and you share a bed for 4 years, you get over your crap really freaking fast, or at least I hope so. But, you know, I'm kind of glad this, and I'm going to use the word bitch. And when I say bitch, I say beauty in total control of herself. Okay? And all the articles all reference she and her, so I'm okay using that. You know, this woman has stones, because I read the gory details of that protest for Russia. And it's like, I want that woman next to me, or however she views herself. I want that person next to me in the fight, because I know she's going to throw a punch when it's needed.
And, what you mentioned, and really what we see in healthcare, the big problem, and something that we're trying to address right now, is having these conversations outside of gay spaces. And what you talked about, the fact that we're talking about this as a news story in in straight spaces, they're not having this conversation at all.
Oh yeah.
So there are lots of straight people that have HIV
Yeah,
that have
Tisley's
no
one of them.
one to talk to.
She's a cis heterosexual black woman.
Right, and
who has
so
HIV.
the stigma is huge. I still have tons of straight patients
Oh, yeah.
who are fearful to get their medication, that their spouse might see it.
Exactly.
They're like, you can't mail anything to the house. You can't. And so we really need to have these conversations a lot more, but not in silos.
Yeah.
And we need to start to give other people not just the opportunity, but give them permission to start to have conversations about not just HIV, but also sex and sexuality and gender.
But I think that this is one of the great things about this story is that these conversations by RuPaul franchising into all these other countries is a really great thing. And it gets that conversation. Yeah. It gets that conversation started. And I think what is really great about this is like you brought back up the Russian protest, or you brought back up the Russian protest. With everything that's going on in Russia right now, this is just an extra poke in the eye from Germany. Because remember, they tried to colonize or control them for half a century after World War II. But this is just a poke in the eye because this woman is not having it. She's been a great advocate and for her community and against Vladimir Putin. And so I just love that it's just that last little screw you, Vladimir Putin. But I'm also not going to copy him in on my flight travel plans.
No.
We are Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only live daily LGBTQ+ evening news show, brought to you from Happening Out Television Network. We operate in the same model of PBS and NPR, but for the LGBTQ+ community. We educate, inform, and entertain by supporting the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ+ community, with more than 100,000 a week watching us on Roku, Apple Television, and other channels. To keep the story going, we accept donations with 100% transparency. Stay updated and live authentically with Queer News Tonight.